Hey guys, Yips here, coming in a video, and today I just kind of want to inform you guys on my opinions about, the pre-patch coming out, what that kind of means for our class, sort of what's been going on with Blizzard the last couple weeks as well as moving forward, and what that kind of means for us as a Warlock class moving into Battle for Azeroth. So, obviously over the last couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of things happening. We saw Demonology getting nerfed, Destro getting nerfed, Affliction getting nerfed, in terms of percent aura scalings, right? So, whatever you take from that is what it is. But for the most part, the damage has gone down on Warlock as a whole. Now, that's going to keep happening over the next few weeks. Not necessarily damage going down. Damage is going to be fluctuating. They're going to be adding buffs. They're going to be adding nerfs. They're going to be testing different things out. Because Blizzard honestly doesn't really know where classes stand as a whole. They have a reasonable idea of how much damage each class is doing. They have a reasonable idea of what's overpowered, what's underpowered, what sort of, line they want to take the game. But in terms of the amount of tests that they've had, it's been very limited because obviously beta is a small portion size of the actual World of Warcraft population. And now that pre-patch has been released on the live servers, they're obviously having a much bigger sample size. But even that being said, it's not a good sample size because being level 110 has no bearing on what 120 will be like at all. It's a reasonable reference, but you're taking two completely different games, one being at 110 with max gear, and then one being at 120 with fresh gear, and trying to make the correlation between the two will be very difficult. So basically what all this means is, every single time you see a damage change, don't really freak out about it. Blizzard is just trying to see how these damage changes affects the classes in raid content, how, a 10% damage change to whatever will affect a certain class in raid content, and then how moving forward that will help them better to make changes when BFA is actually out and released and we're 120, and they can make really good informed decisions once they have all of that data kind of sampled in, and then they can, finish the class balancing changes then. So we should really start paying attention to the class balancing changes is when BFA is out. After the first week or so, that's when you should really be, that's when Blizzard's really going to be finalizing their works for that particular, raid tier, and that's when you should be paying attention to what classes are going to be good, what's not going to be so great, what spec you should be playing, things along those natures. So any sort of damage stuff that's happening right now, don't pay too much attention to it. It's all going to change. Probably. Aside from that, obviously BFA, has been released on live servers now, at least for 110. Obviously, you cannot level yet, but what this means is we have a whole new plethora of talents for all three of the Warlock specs, as well as some new abilities. Currently, right now, Demonology and Destro are nowhere close to the power level of Affliction. I honestly don't think Blizzard cares too much because, with the new expansion coming out so soon, I believe that's probably their number one priority. But either way, right now, if you want to raid and you want to be a really good DPS class, Affliction is the way to go for Warlock. Right now, with the current stats, the talents that you'll be running for almost most every situation aside from multi-target is going to be Deathbolt, Siphon Life, Phantom Singularity, Haunt, and Creeping Death. Obviously, if it's multi-target, you can change to Absolute Corruption or Writhe and Agony, whichever you prefer. Probably Absolute Corruption, but either way, these are the standard talents that you're going to be taking in a raid, at least single target scenario. I use these on Garathi and Argus, and they worked very well. In terms of playstyle for these talents, it's up in the air a little bit as to what you should be doing. Obviously, there are sims out which are telling us how we technically should be playing theoretically, but I believe those sims were probably constructed in terms of the abilities that a 120 character would have, so like the stat lines a 120 character would have along that nature, rather than a 120 or 110 character with crazy stats. But either way, the way that I've kind of interpreted the playstyle is like this. So for your opener, obviously you have this really crazy cooldown Dark Lair, which I discussed previously in my Affliction BFA video. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. Anyways, you have this cooldown Dark Lair. You have your Phantom Singularity up, you have Haunt up, you have Deathbolt up, so you want to try to maximize all of those together. So my opener kind of looks a little bit like this. I'll be casting all my dots. Actually, we'll do it with Bloodlust because it'll be a little bit more realistic, because most guilds Bloodlust on pull, so we'll do it with Bloodlust just to make it seem a little bit more of a standard opener. So basically what you're going to do, get all your dots on, get Haunt on, Phantom Singularity, UA until you're out of shards, Dark Lair, and then Deathbolt, and that's it. So this is what's going to look like. You're going to Lust, get your dots out, Haunt to Phantom Singularity, UA 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, Dark Glare, Deathbolt. Okay, that's what the rotation is going to look like in the opener, and then after that you spam Shadow Bolt until you have to refresh your dots. I'm going to cast Haunt, I'm going to cast another UA here, just because I want the Tormented Agony buff during Lust, because my shard gen is going to be very high. Note my Death Bolt is going to be coming off cooldown again in approximately 10 seconds, so I want to be ready for that window. So just sort of chilling now. Gonna go ahead and cast the Haunt here. Gonna start stacking my UAs for the Death Bolt, because my Death Bolt will be off cooldown in 3 seconds. Death Bolt's off, cast it with all those UAs up, and then you have a really solid opener for your Affliction Warlock, okay? And then from here on out, the way that I've kind of done the playstyle is every time I put Phantom Singularity on the target, I'm trying to have a UA with it in order to buff it by 10%. That's just the way I've been playing. Whether or not that's correct or not, it's up in the air, but that's just how I've been doing it, because you do have excess shards to spend outside of the Death Bolt windows, and that's when I've been doing it, is during my Phantom Singularity. And obviously my Death Bolt window is coming up here again, so I'm going to go ahead and refresh my dots, cast Haunt, UA a few times, and then Death Bolt. And that's how the rotation kind of flows throughout the course of the boss fight. You're just refreshing your dots, getting your Haunt up, making sure you're ready for those Death Bolt windows with 3 to 4 UAs in order to cast, and then outside of that, you're basically saving your Unstable Afflictions for that Death Bolt window. As long as you're not capping on shards, that's fine. And then I'm just casting a UA with my Phantom Singularity whenever I have that active on the boss. Now, Phantom Singularity I've just been using on cooldown. I have not been saving it for Death Bolt. Obviously, if there's like 3 or 4 seconds on Phantom Singularity where you can get it lined up perfectly with your Death Bolt, you know, go ahead and do that. But for the most part, I do not believe it's worth saving the cooldown for the Death Bolt. You'll just lose too much of a timer on it, and it's not worth it. But overall, again, the Affliction Warlock DPS is very, very high right now on single target, and yeah, so how you deal with movement, you just have to refresh your dots. Life tap's gone, so whenever you're moving, just make sure you're refreshing your dots. That's kind of how Warlock's playing right now. It's pretty good as a whole, and the playstyle doesn't feel too boring, at least not yet, because it's still fresh. But yeah, anyways, let me know what you guys think about the pre-patch. Let me know what you guys think about Warlock. Again, don't take too much into heart. This is not going to be what it looks like at 120. This is a very, very rough iteration of the BFA release. So yeah, just let me know what you guys are thinking. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this gets you a little bit more informed as to what's going on, and have a great day.